We're going to start out by winter sowing. We have some lupins here that we're going to be starting from seed, and we're going to use the winter sowing method in order to have success with our lupin seeds that we're using. So I'm just going to hop and pull out my lupin seeds. When I store my seeds, I like to use these containers here. One of my boys got this for me as a gift, and it's been very handy, so I store my seeds in there. But we're going to hop in here, grab out the lupin seeds, and then we'll start that process, and then we'll head outside because I have a few things that I want to get done outside before winter comes. And I mean winter in the way of freezing weather and things of that nature. So I really should have already had it done, but didn't get to it. How do you store your seeds? And of course, I just spilled a ton of seeds here. And I believe, let's see, oh, one of my seed packets opened up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these out. And make sure they're closed. Here we go. Here's our lupin seeds. Now, first thing that I want to do with my lupin seeds, I like to soak them. Sometimes I will soak them overnight. Sometimes if I forget about them, overnight turns into 24 hours, sometimes 36. Now, 36 hours is pushing it. So what I typically like to do is I like to get my lupin seeds prepared while I'm in the midst of doing another chore, just like we're going to be doing today. Lupin seeds, to me, I feel like the best way to start your lupin seeds can be with winter stratification, but then it's also a great idea to start your lupin seeds some in the fall, some in the winter, and that way you'll make sure that you have a pretty good chance of having consistent lupin blooms. Now, this is what the seeds look like. I am going to start all of my lupin seeds that I have here. So I went ahead and I poured all of these out. You can get these very inexpensive. These were $1.78. We're going to use some seaweed fertilizer. I'll be sure to link it in the description box. I like to make sure I shake it very, very well. This is going to help our seeds with germination, and we're just going to pour a little bit of this in here. We'll let these soak for a little bit. Now let's head outside. We're going to clean out the fountain. We should have already conquered this task, but we are running behind. It's fine. Let me show you what it's looking like. It's icicles hanging off. There is some openings where I feel like we can get in, and let me just show you what it's looking like. So we got some icicles here. The water is still trickling. We should be able to get up underneath and drain out all of the water. So that's our goal here. And then we'll get out any leaves or anything. This all just seems like very superficial. Hold on, it might not be. Okay, it's a nice little layer. So what we'll do is we'll just get all of the water out, and this ice seems very much superficial. Yeah, because see right here, it's not even frozen right there. We will also go ahead and clean out the top of the fountain as well. Hopefully the winter arrangement is frozen enough to where I should be able to pull all of this out. So things like our pine cones, we are going to be keeping these, and everything else will be trashed. And of course the obelisk will keep that as well. I'm going to use the vacuum cleaner in order to get all of this water out. So let's get started. Mission accomplished. I was able to get all of the water out. I dried the fountain out. Now typically when I close my fountain, what I like to do is I do cover my fountain some years, and some years I don't. It's just kind of hit or miss. It just kind of all really just depend on what I have going on. I went in, got the water out, took the paper towels, dried out the bottom of it. You really want to give it like 48 hours to 72 hours where it's just dry, and preferably before any type of cold weather sets in. Then you go ahead and you cover it with a tarp or a fountain cover. Now, what I'm going to do, since it's already wet, is I'm going to let it dry out like overnight, if you will, and then that way I'll be able to hop out before we get any type of weather and put the cover on. The lupin seeds that we're going to be starting, I went ahead and I soaked them. I like my lupin seeds to soak for about 24 to 36 hours. I've had success with them when I've soaked them, and I've had success with them when I haven't soaked them, but I do notice that my germination rate is better when I let them soak. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to let them soak overnight, and then we'll pick this back up in the morning. We are going to drain off our seaweed fertilizer off of our lupin seeds here. Now, I want to show you, let me get the gloves off. Up close, this is what our lupin seeds look like. Well hydrated. They're plump. And it's going to help us along with germination. This is what we're going to use to plant these up. We're going to be using the winter sowing method, but we're not going to drill any holes inside of this container because we want to create like a humidity chamber, if you will. So we want to lock in all of the moisture so that way we'll have good success with our germination. Because your lupin seeds are part of the legume family, so they're going to want to grow deep. So we're going to be using these root trainers here. I have a total of 8 cells that we're going to be using. And then we're just going to put them inside of this container right here. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you are germinating your lupin seeds, a lot of people have success with germination, whether or not they soak the seed or not. Some people soak it, some people don't. But the problem with your lupin is going to be when you try to transplant it. That's where most lupins fail, okay? So by you coming in and using something like a root trainer, it air prunes, so it makes it easier for you to transplant your seeds because it just opens up and you can slide out effortlessly. So it cuts down on transplant shock and it actually helps develop stronger roots. So we're just going to jump right in and get these potted up. Now, whenever I am using my root trainers, what I like to do is I go in and I spray the inside of it first. So I'm just going to take my pump sprayer and just spray the inside of it and then start filling it up with soil. Now I'm just using regular old potting soil here. One of the most important things to keep in mind is the type of soil that you use when you start certain seeds. It's going to be your soil medium. Deep root trainers can be expensive, but I'm going to show you a hack that I like to use when I'm doing seed starting. And I'll show you all how I like to make deep root trainers. You only need a few items that you may already have on hand. So I took my container, I cut it down to the size, so which is going to give me that capability to be able to open it. Once I get ready to transplant, let's fill it up with some soil here. And I'd like to use a tamper when I do this. That way we make sure we get all of the air pockets out. Then we take a rubber band and we go around the bottom of it. And if it overlaps, that's fine too. And this is how we get the container to stay together. And so from there, we just pop our seeds in. So we got this one prepared. So let's do a few more. I guess we need to cut it first, right? Filled with dirt for the most part. I'm not sure how many. I know I have more seeds than I have containers prepared, but this is how I prep my DIY root trainer. So if you don't have root trainers on hand, you have regular old containers that you use for your seed starting, you can easily get you some seed. The seed was very cheap. I got it for $1.78. Picked it up at Lowe's. You can get you some rubber bands, cut down the side of your containers and put the rubber band on there. So when you get ready to transplant your lupin, all you have to do is just pop your rubber band off and just pull your container, easy peasy. So let's go ahead and start dropping seed. this is where my containers will be. What we're going to do is I'm going to continue to monitor these to make sure that they're sprouting. Once the seeds germinate, then I'll be taking them and I will plop them over into another winter sowing container just like this, but it's going to have holes in it. That way it can get rainwater, it can get the proper circulation that it needs, and everything will be fine. Now, I will say with the lupin, keep in mind, lupin, depending on where you live, it is very invasive. Now, I've used lupin before in various containers. I love to use them for beautiful spring displays because they're absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, and they pair perfectly with tulips, and they're great to use in floral arrangements. Now, the variety that I am using grow as tall as your normal lupins will grow, because some lupins can get up to 6 feet tall. But when I tell you they're invasive, they're very invasive. So in order to combat that, I'll make sure that I go ahead and I cut down the bloom stock. So as soon as that bloom starts to fade, I go ahead and I cut it down. Because if you think about it, what happens is if you leave it there, your lupin goes to seed, the wind is going to take it away, and then you'll have lupin everywhere. So for me, I do like to use my lupin inside of a container, preferably on some type of concrete surface, or I will put a saucer up underneath it, and I don't let the blooms linger around. So I'll be sure to keep you all updated on this winter sowing method. Drop down in the comment box. Let me know, are you winter sowing? Have you winter sowed in the past? I would love to hear about your results. And also, have you started lupin seeds before? Have you used lupin in your garden? I would so love to hear about it.